Okay, let's talk about square roots. And what I'm going to be discussing is really not emphasized enough in most math courses. It's taught, but it's not really emphasized. And it's a little tiny detail that is actually very, very important to know about square roots. And what I'm saying here is that these are not the same. So, what am I talking about? Well, if I asked you to take the square root of 4, okay, this is not going to be the same as solving this equation. For example, x squared is equal to 4. You're like, oh, I just take the square root of both sides. So that's going to be this. There is a significant difference here, and we need to discuss it. Okay, so stick around for a couple minutes. You're going to learn more than you thought about this little basic symbol here, this square root symbol. So if you're in any sort of math class, middle school, high school, doesn't make a difference, college, stick around because you're going to learn something very, very important. But before we get going, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is John. I'm the founder of TC Math Academy. I'm also a middle and high school math teacher. I've been teaching math for decades, and I'm telling you right now, there's no such thing as a bad math student. So if you're struggling in math, listen, you can turn this around, okay? But it requires two things. One, you got to be willing to do the work, okay? Study hard, take notes, do all your homework, all that kind of stuff. But the second thing you need is great math instruction, clear, understandable, comprehensive. That's where I can help you out. So if you're at the middle school, high school, or college level, check out my Math Help program. I'm going to leave a link to it in the description of this video. It will help you tremendously. Also, if you're preparing for any test with a math section, something like the GED, SAT, ACT, GRE, GMAT, ASVAB, AccuPlacer, ALEX exam, teacher certification exam. I have a ton of test prep courses that can help you out. If you homeschool, I have excellent middle and high school homeschool math courses that can help you out. And if this video helps you out, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel as that helps me out big time. Okay, so what do you think I'm going to be talking about? If you're like, I think this guy's going to be talking about this, go ahead and put that into the comment section, what you think I may be discussing. But let's go ahead and get into it right now. All right, so let's talk about this word square root. Okay, we do use it pretty frequently in mathematics, but here is kind of the technical definition of a square root. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of read it to you, then we'll look at an example. X is the square root of a number y. Okay, so x is the square root of a number y such that y squared is equal to x. Okay, so what are we talking about here? Well, x is the square root of y such that y squared is equal to x. So basically, 4, okay, is 4 and negative 4 is the square root of 16 because 4 squared, a positive 4 squared is positive 16. Negative 4 squared, which is negative 4 times negative 4, is also positive 16. Therefore, positive 4 and negative 4 are the square roots of 16. Okay, so that's kind of the technical definition of what it means to take the square root of something. Okay, so now most of you are like, well, that's kind of a little bit confusing. I thought that just square root means like if I take the square root of 16, find two numbers such that when you multiply them together, you get back to 16. That's basically what it means. It's just another way of kind of stating it. All right, now let's talk about something else here. Okay, and this is where this video is going to become very important, is when we're taking the square root of non-negative real numbers, right? So here's the number line, here's 0. All these numbers here are non-negative, i.e. 1, here's 2, here's 3. You have all your decimals, fractions, etc. in between that, and then over here you have all the negative numbers, right? So non-negative real numbers is anything greater than 0. Well, all these numbers have a unique, okay? Now this is where I need you to pay attention. All these numbers have a unique non-negative square root, okay? So again, I'm going to repeat myself. All non-negative real numbers have a unique non-negative square root, and this is called the principal square root. Okay, so if you've never heard of the principal square root, this is really the essence or the main point to this whole video. And let me explain what the principal square root is. Okay, very, very simple. Then the principal square root is designated by this little symbol right here. So you might be saying, isn't that the square root symbol? Yes, it is. But when we use this term, the square root, okay, or use this symbol, what we generally are talking about is finding the principal square root. So if I say find the square root of 9, okay? Most people would answer that as 3, and that would be correct, but this is a non-negative square root of 9, okay? So this unique non-negative square root of a non-negative real number, i.e. 9, okay, is a non-negative real number. This is something called the principal square root. And you basically, let's just go back to this example here with 16. We saw that the square root of 16 is equal to positive 4 and negative 4. The positive square root, this one right here, is referred to as the principal square root. Okay, so when do we use this? Well, basically, you're going to use this pretty much in all kind of square root questions, and I'm going to show you when you don't use the principal square root, okay? So it's very, very important to go back and remember. However, here I wrote, every positive real number still has 2 square roots, okay? i.e., a positive real number like 16 still has two unique square roots, okay? Positive and negative 4 for the example of 16, okay? The positive 1, okay, like positive 4 is the principal square root. All right, so how do we use this? Well, typically in mathematics, okay, when you're asked to find the square root of a number, this refers to finding the principal square root, okay, generally speaking. And let's just now take a look at an example. If I said find the square root of 4 and you answered 2, you would be correct, okay, because you're giving me the principal square root. All right, now a lot of people will be like, well, isn't the square root of 4 positive negative 2? Well, yes, it is, because positive 2, I know this is confusing, right? Times positive 2 still gets you back to a positive 4. Negative 2 times a negative 2 still gets you back to a positive 4. So why wouldn't we just answer positive negative 2? Sometimes in math you do write it that way, okay? But generally speaking, when you're asked to find the square root of a number and you give an answer like that, that's the principal square root. This symbol is kind of implying the principal square root. So technically, this would not be considered incorrect because that's what the principal square root is. It's that unique non-negative square root of that non-negative real number. So I know that's kind of complicated, but you do need to be aware there is something called the principal square root, and this comes in extremely this is extremely important when you're checking for something called extraneous roots in algebra equations, like rational equations. Okay, when you're checking for those, you're using the principal square root. So this is not just like a little trivial side thing. This is a very important concept. Now let's take a look at this equation right here. This happens to be a quadratic equation, if you didn't know that. So x to the second power, this means that there's going to be 2 solutions, okay? So when you have this little exponent up here, this is a polynomial. 2 degree 2 means that there's two solutions. So how can I solve this equation? X squared is equal to 4. I can simply take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared is x, and the square root of 4, when I'm looking for 2 roots, is going to be both positive and negative 2. So x is going to be equal to both a positive 2 and a negative 2. These are my 2 unique solutions, 1 and 2. And typically, an easier way to write both plus 2 and minus 2 is just simply by putting that plus and minus just like that and putting that number in there. Okay, so when you're dealing with things like quadratic equations and the like, you're going to be just go ahead and finding and listing all the roots. But if you're just taking the square root of a number like this, you're going to be using the principal square root. Okay, so hopefully this is not too confusing. And if you heard of the principal square root before, that's awesome. I do think that this is not emphasized enough, okay, especially in algebra courses and in topics like when using the extraneous roots. Because I've seen this, I've been teaching math for decades. I'm telling you right now, this is a point of confusion for a lot of students out there. So if you want to kind of see this more in action, I have additional videos on anything that has to do with extraneous roots in my YouTube channel. Of course, I teach all this thoroughly in any one of my algebra courses and math courses as well. All right, so with that being said, I definitely wish you all the best in your mathematics adventures. Thank you for your time and have a great day.